Alright guys, here it is. Very excited to unveil the latest addition to my collection. This is a very special bike, 2022 MV Agusta Brutale 1000RR. This is the Nurburgring edition, number 6 out of 150 made. My first naked bike, and I cannot explain how excited I am about this bike to ride it and experience it. This thing is an absolutely brutal animal, hence the name Brutality, I guess. What the bike is pretty much is like the flagship for MV Agusta for their current models. They basically took their highest spec Brutale 1000RR, which is an absolutely an amazing bike to begin with, and they put it on steroids. What does that mean? Basically, they added a ton of carbon fiber bits. You could see all the fairings, covers, obviously the BST wheels. They shedded quite a bit of weight, changing to the BST carbon wheels. Also, this particular bike has the full titanium aero exhaust, which is quite a bit lighter than the 4 exhausts that usually come on this particular bike. The 2 on each side. Sounds absolutely amazing. What else did they do? Not only did they lighten the bike, I believe it's around 390 pounds, 175 or 177 kilos for all the European people, but it also bumped the power from 208 to about 215 with the exhaust. It also has a race ECU to make it even more aggressive. I mean, imagine, this is a naked bike producing 215 horsepower, sub 400 pounds. It is an absolutely one of the craziest bikes on the market currently. And once again, only 150 made for the world. So it makes it a very, very exclusive. I've only seen one other one locally at a dealership here. But that's pretty much the details about the bike. I say let's do less talking and more riding. So let me suit up and we'll take it out for a quick ride, see what it's all about. Give you guys a couple of shots really quickly. Very, very excited to have this bike. I love the paint job. Only thing that I'm doing right now is gonna be removing the license plate holder. I have a bracket that's already on order. But other than that, this bike needs absolutely nothing. It is probably not one, but it's for sure definitely the loudest bike that I have, and probably one of the loudest bikes that I've ever heard. The highlight, obviously, of this bike is going to be the engine. I mean, 998 cc producing that much power on a naked bike. It's pretty much a super bike, what it is. And you can kind of tell that even though there's no fairings on the side or on the front, how low the handlebars are. The sitting position is very much similar to a super bike nowadays. So like I said, less talking, let me suit up and we'll take it out and see what this bike is made of. Stay tuned. All right, we're all gassed up. Let's get dressed and we'll go for a ride and show you guys what all the excitement is about this particular bike. Once again, this is the 2022 MV Agusta Brutale 1000RR Nurburgring edition, one of only 150 made for the world. My latest addition to the collection, my first naked bike, and let's start it. We'll go for a ride, have some fun. First thing you guys will notice is how loud the exhaust is. Also check out the screen when you start it. Actually tells you how much battery you got, how much fuel, obviously the type of the bike, and we're ready to go. one of the loudest bikes that I have. Not one of, but for sure the loudest bikes that I've had, and one of the loudest bikes that I've experienced. It's absolutely insane with that full titanium aero exhaust, which was developed with MV Agusta and World Superbike, I think, when you were part of it. It's definitely a must if you're getting one of these bikes. It sounds absolutely insane. Every time you roll on the throttle is like exhilarating. Slow it down a little bit here because sometimes there's cops. Like I mentioned before, the highlight of this bike is really the engine. 998cc, producing 215 horsepower with this exhaust. Very light bike, dry weight 390 pounds. I think it's about 177 kilos or so for all the Europeans. And it's absolutely insane. It's probably one of the most fun bikes that I've experienced. And as you see, second police car that we're passing. So we're not gonna roll on the throttle a little bit. We don't wanna get too much attention. But it's hard. It's hard not to ride it hard. The amount of power this bike generates when you roll on the throttle, combined with the noises that come out from the exhaust and the engine, it just gets you every time. It's a absolute adrenaline-rising experience, I will have to say. Myself, like I say, it's my first naked bike. I always wanted to get a naked bike. My first choice was going to be, let me shift it up to higher gear so that way it's a little bit quiet. My first choice was the Aprilia Tuono, which I rode one years ago and I loved it. So I looked into those. There was also the Ducati Street Fighter SP2 and obviously the MV Agusta Brutale. The reason I went with this particular bike is because I was actually able to get a great deal on it. It was technically used because it's a 2022 but only had 1,000 miles on it. So essentially a brand new bike. And at the time when I got it, MV Agusta had a special offer of 0% financing. So they were able to run this bike through that program. And it was pretty much a no-brainer. It was almost like free money. Didn't even have to put any money down. So it just worked out. But give you a little bit more details about the bike. Like I said, only 150 examples were built for the world. It's the top of the tier when it comes to their current production bikes. It's the most powerful bike that they make, the highest spec, you know, with the carbon fiber wheels, all the carbon bits that are on the bike. I believe the MSRP of this bike was close to $50,000 at the time of the release. They just released the newest version of this bike, which is the 2024 version, which is the Ascent. Basically what MV is doing is they're releasing different versions of racetracks that they've been successful throughout their years of racing. This is obviously the first one, the Nurburgring. I do love the coloring, the silver and red. I think it looks absolutely amazing.
And yeah, I don't regret the decision for buying up this bike for one bit. It is, every time you jump on it, it is an absolutely a thrill to ride it. Interesting note, when you purchase the bike, it actually comes with a big old box with extra parts. One of the things is the titanium exhaust. Second is the race ECU that comes with it, and a couple other bits. That was only available at the time in 2022. Since then, KTM has actually purchased a big portion of MV Agusta. So essentially KTM owns the rights, or owns the company now. And because of all the California regulations, not just California, but all the US emission regulations, this particular exhaust is no longer available with the bike. You can still purchase it separately and install it, but it doesn't come as part of the package, which obviously a plus for me when I bought it. Bike has the quick shifter, which absolutely works amazing. Up and down, you don't need the clutch. Very, very fun bike to ride. It's Father's Day today, Sunday, beautiful weather here in Southern California. As you see, we're running across a lot of other bikers, other people enjoying the weather, so today's the perfect day to go ride. This particular road is very popular on the weekends for cars, bikers, because it's a very long straightaway, no stop signs, no stop lights, and we're gonna take off a little bit further on to the left, another I guess break, another road that's a little bit more twisty, so we're going to test the bike through there even more. But this bike handles absolutely amazing, very light bike. The carbon wheels, combination of everything that they've done to lighten the bike, it's an absolutely the best way to describe it is it's an absolutely street hooligan. Even though it's a naked bike, the way that the handlebars are positioned, your position of sitting is still kind of leaning forward like a superbike, but obviously you don't have the fairings to protect you, or you know, to deflect the wind. Nonetheless, extremely fast bike. I believe this bike, it's limited to 186 miles top speed, but with the race ECU, there's been examples of other models like this that would hit 200 miles, so it would go above 186, which is absolutely insane, hitting 200 miles on a naked bike. But it's not a surprise given that the bike makes 215 horsepower. It's hard to stay within the speed limits, to say the least. Also keep in mind, we are still in sport mode. There's another version or another level race mode that makes it even more aggressive. I've dabbled in it a couple of times, but like I said, because I'm still getting used to the bike, I just ride it in sports, which is plenty of power. You can still set different settings when it comes to the suspension, traction control. There's 6 different levels of traction control. You have obviously MV Agusta call it front lift control. There's different settings for that. Essentially wheelie control. So you can play around with those settings as well. Obviously the ABS, engine braking. There's multiple different settings that you can set the bike to your liking, or have essentially saved 4 or 5 different settings that you can flick through it on the go. Absolutely amazing. We haven't had rain in a while, but it's still very green everywhere. Perfect weather. It is starting to get hot. One of the other things that I really like about this bike, that even in like 90+ degrees, the bike doesn't really get hot like some of my Ducatis. I'm sure it has to do with the fact that it's a naked bike, no fairing, so all the hot air gets to just escape through the back. The 5.5-inch screen is very bright, so even when it's sunny and the sun hits it directly, you can still see everything very clearly. That's definitely a plus. The only negative thing about this bike, it's not really a negative thing, but it's something getting used to, is the position of the key. It is right behind the screen and between the front light. I'll show you guys. So it takes a little bit of getting used to starting it, and usually with gloves it's kind of like a tight fit. Other than that, there's not anything negative about the bike that I could say from my experience so far. There's nothing like it. The power curve, I mean, there's absolutely no flat spots anywhere. One thing that I've noticed, that you definitely got to keep your hands on it somewhat tightly, because as you roll on the throttle, like I said, the bike just pulls so hard in pretty much every gear throughout the power range. So you don't want to make sure that you roll on it with one hand, because you can easily start sliding back. The bike is very planted throughout the turns. Feels like a Superbike, just being naked essentially. The fact that you can get a naked bike nowadays with almost 220 horsepower, it is absolutely insane. The bike just wants to really, even in second and pretty much in third gear, I'm being relatively smooth on the throttle, but I think if I change it to race mode and be a little bit more aggressive and probably turn the wheelie control off, the front wheel is easily going to come up. Popular hangout spot, lots of bikers. So now we're hitting the other road I was telling you guys about. This particular road's got a little more curves, so we get to experience how the bike handles. Hopefully we don't catch up to any traffic. like most of the traffic is coming back in the other direction, which is good for us. Bike. Sorry if I'm being a little too quiet, but like I said, I just wanted to focus while we're going through these turns and this section of the road. It is such a adrenaline feeling ride on this bike every time. To the other side, there's a few more pretty much like 180 switchback turns, slower turns, so we'll go through that and then we'll turn around and come back. But so far the bike feels absolutely amazing. Like I said, feels very planned on the turns. It's so easy to maneuver, it feels very light. Traffic ahead of us. Alright, looks like we're going to be going a little bit slower than expected through this section. back the other direction. You can for sure feel the front wheel go up in the air slightly by just even remotely being aggressive on the throttle in second gear. This is definitely not a beginner's bike by any means, even though you have all the electronics obviously to help you in turns or with traction control and wheel control and everything. The amount of power this bike produces is definitely for more experienced people. Get into trouble very, very easily with this bike. Was a very special Ducati Panigale, one of the replica bikes. I believe it was the Alvaro Bautista World Superbike replica. That's a $63,000 bike that somebody's actually riding on the road, which is pretty cool. That's what the bike was designed to do. I know a lot of collectors are buying them and just storing them, but to see it on the street, it's pretty awesome. Let's see if we can find a safe spot to get by this car.
Alright guys, first ride officially done, and this bike is absolutely insane. Probably the best word to describe it. It's mind-blowing, the performance of this bike. I mean, it's your mind is kind of like tricked. You're like, oh, I'm riding a naked bike. This thing should not be this fast, or you know, should not be making this kind of noises or this much power. But as soon as you twist the throttle, it's absolutely insane. The bike is definitely a keeper. I'm looking forward to riding it even more and getting used to it even more. We didn't even ride it in race mode this time because, like I say, I want to get used to the bike, the power, everything about it, and for sure there will be more videos. Stay tuned. I have another cliffhanger for you guys. There's going to be another new bike review coming pretty soon. The bike is pretty much here. We're just doing a little extra mods, so stay tuned for the next video. Definitely make sure to subscribe, hit that bell to follow, and so see you guys soon. Bye.